Thank you guys so much for coming to our webinar From Manual to Modern, the Digital Transformation in Regulatory Processes. I'm Gay Esser, the Marketing Manager here at RegDesk. And if you don't know what we do, we are an AI-powered regulatory information management platform with built-in regulatory intelligence. And our platform allows RA teams to leverage AI to prepare, manage, and publish international submissions smarter and faster. To focus on you for just a minute, we just want to say thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here today. We really do appreciate your time, and we know that you're going to find value in the webinar. And the way we're going to handle it is we'll have a presentation, and then at the end, we'll do a Q&A. So during the webinar, if you have any questions, please just put them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll make sure to pull all those at the end, and we'll get to as many of those as we can to make sure we're respectful of your 1 hour time frame. Also, just note that we will share the slide deck and the recording along with any unanswered questions in the next couple of days, so be on the lookout for that email to come through. Now let me take a moment to introduce our experts to you. We have Pablo Ojeda is the Regulatory Intelligence Lead and AI Advisor here at RegDesk. And he is a seasoned medical device regulatory expert with over 20 years of experience helping companies navigate complex global and market entry strategies. He has led digital regulatory transformation, bringing innovative strategic insights that have powered the modernization of regulatory intelligence processes and applicable to global markets. We also have Jodi Granger joining us in the Q&A section, and she is the Director of Regulatory Affairs here at RegDesk. Jodi brings over 36 years of experience in quality and regulatory roles within the medical device and IVD industry. She has held leadership roles overseeing global regulatory teams and driving the development and execution of regulatory strategies for all classes of medical devices worldwide. So thank you both for joining us today. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be here as well. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn it over to you, Pablo.
Thank you, Gigi. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We started the presentation from today. As we said, we are going to speak about digital transformation in regulatory processes. Well, these are the teammates we joined today. Jodi and I were working on this company for many years. In this case, I'm going to present what is the health authorities and manufacturers' interests, why the regulatory process must evolve according to the digital transformation, what digital transformation really means to the regulatory teams, what are the key drivers of digital transformation, the role of regulatory intelligence in a digital framework, and some practical steps to get started. Well, looking ahead is a final chapter just to discuss some things in the future, like, for example, the AI. Well, when we find some information from regulatory agents, we wanted to know what is the purpose of the regulatory framework, because we have here the already prepared strategy for different agencies. In this case, the FDA is looking for protecting the public health, right? Ensuring the safety and efficacy and security of human and veterinary drugs, biological products, and medical devices. This is the general purpose, the general mission: protect public health, but also advancing the public health by helping to speed up innovations that make medical devices more effective, safer, and more affordable. This is accelerating innovation, among others, policies from FDA, for example. And also we have from Europe, the purpose is to establish a robust, transparent, predictable, and sustainable regulatory framework for medical devices, which ensures a high level of safety and health while supporting innovation. Similar purpose from the major agencies, the major regulators global, and to protect the safety and health and to support innovation. This is the purpose of the authorities, and we need to know also what are the purposes or the needs from the industry. Well, most of you are from the industry, and you know sometimes the needs from our companies are mixed or are mixed with problems around the regulatory submissions or the regulatory changes and struggling with different processes without a real focus on what is the need from our company. Our company usually wants to accelerate time to market. I would say this is the first one. My company or what is the company around the world will need to accelerate time to market because you need to deliver, you need to do business, expand access to more markets. This is also typical from marketing, but also expansion is usually a need from the medical devices and in vitro diagnostic devices companies, as well as any other company around the world. Ensuring high quality product performance. Why? Because we need to deliver good products. This is our main intention, our main vision, focus, etc. Prevent adverse events. Why? Because, of course, we don't want to hurt our users. We don't want to make problems additional to our product. We need to solve problems, health problems, and sometimes adverse events will be an issue in our business. Optimize costs. Uh, of course, costs are really a need from the companies, especially these days. But of course, in regulatory affairs, it's not the objective is the cuttings of costs. It's just optimizing the cost, preventing losses, preventing problems with legal issues, and preventing any problem with products that can be impacting in the market. Well as enhance responsiveness to the health authorities, of course. If a health authority is asking me for information, I should respond in a timely and proper manner, and I need information and need the data to be ready. These are the needs from the industry that needs to match with the authorities' need because it's important to be in clear rules, well, under compliance. Well, why the regulatory process must evolve? Because among other problems or other limitations these days, we also have an exponential innovation today with many products being developed, many products in the market, and the exponential innovation will not be um, stopped by the regulations, right? The regulations should be adapted to the exponential innovation. Otherwise, the the potential use cases, the potential intended use for the products um, will not be possible to well, sorry, um, will not be possible to deliver, right? Um, the big problem in itself is the growing global regulatory complexity and the lack of harmonization, right? Sometimes you will see from major countries the regulatory complexity is growing because uh, the agents needs to be assured that the problems or any processes under control of the manufacturers should be in compliance with standards. But with the current system, any processes or any new audit or any new review from the agencies will add a new step in the current procedure. Um, but of course, every country is doing the regulations by themselves. Their own agencies create regulations, guidances, standards, etc. But just a few of these countries are working together. For example, the IMDRF. The IMDRF is an agency that works together to regulate with a table of countries, including the major ones, in order to get harmonization ready for the international regulations. Of course, we need faster, accurate, traceable, eco-friendly, affordable processes. That's why we need to evolve, the regulatory process needs to evolve in order to be responsible for the procedure, being traceable, eco-friendly, because we don't want to waste a lot of the resources and paper, etc. And of course, the paperwork limitation is today with the speed of communication, etc. If we use the old methods, the paperwork will be a limited uh, process or limited resource for us to fulfill all the requirements. Okay. In the last 30 years, I would say, maybe 30 years or more, the regulatory process is changed from, we have a couple of options here or a couple of samples, but there are many others. Experience-based evidence to risk management QMS evidence. We have more experience in the past. We have the agencies working with cases, sometimes even legal cases have promoted the regulations to be created, as you know. And today, the risk management in the quality management system creates evidence for the whole regulatory processes, right? Sometimes we used to see that experience is not enough, or experience is not possible to be collected, for example, for critical devices like rigs, live rigs devices. It's not possible to have evidence of cases of occurrence, and sometimes we need to create a risk management strategy to create the evidence to perform the processes of management. In the past, we had visual inspection and sample testing methods. Typically, visual inspections was a method to do more quality in medical devices field. We had specialists checking everything, and the sample testing was the method we used to have in the past. But today, especially with statistical and probabilistic validations, we have in company processes or third party testings that help us to accelerate the validations. And of course, we are trying to move visual inspection or in-house testing to validation itself, right? Some processes like sterilization are not applicable for sampling or visual inspection, just a limited part of the sterilization, for example. You can test it. You can test packaging as well, but no the 100% sampling, which is not possible. Paper support was in the past the only way we can demonstrate evidence. More of the process, most of the processes we used to have desk submissions, right? Portal submissions. You need to present the folders, sign it, stamp it, etc., and certificate evidence in paper for the reviewers to approve your devices. And today, in most of the agencies, you have digital ways to present in multi-format all the information for the submissions and approval. In the past, we used to have general technical knowledge. I will not say general because it's bad, but in the past, we have the medical knowledge and the engineering knowledge. But today, because of the innovations and some new topics in the medical devices regulations, we have a lot of specialists from different parts of the science, chemistry, biological, software, nanotechnologies, artificial intelligence, genetics, etc. Right? This is changing why the regulatory process needs to move from general knowledge to specialist knowledge. Well, individual regulatory efforts. In the past, we have United States FDA, Europe, and international standardization, and other efforts to regulate, to standardize, etc. And countries just uh, create their own regulation, right? If you see Brazil or if you see India, they create their own. They try to use as a reference, for example, European regulations or the United States FDA, but they create their own processes, their own bureaucracy, I would say, and the efforts are just localized, right? When you want to go from India to Brazil or from Brazil to India, there are problems, there are no compatibilities, and you need to repeat some testing. You need to recreate the the submission, etc. Today I would say from many years ago, but today we are in a better position because international harmonization is more and more evolved. And I would say this is the best approach I find from the agencies to create international regulations for the rest of the countries. Well, what is the digital transformation means for our teams, for regulatory teams? Well, maybe you can see reactive compliance to proactive planning, and I would say, where are you now? You are from the reactive compliance team, or you are from the proactive planning team? Well, this is a difficult question today because you need to do both because we are in a transition from non-digital to digital transformation. Um, with reactive compliance, we used to miss updates and deadlines. We used to retroactive change control processes. When the changes are already done, we create the documentation, we run faster to submit everything to the authorities. We struggle also to answer deficiency letters, for example, when we have to answer, we don't know where's the information we need to submit, or sometimes it's in a different format. We need to recreate the documents from the agencies, and of course, the CAPA processes are not possible to be done automatically, but you need to create every document manually, right? For those who are in the offices, maybe you know that this reactive compliance is a lot of Excel sheets, a lot of Word documents, a lot of meetings, a lot of I don't know, different type of exchanging information. But we used to have very difficult times when we need to answer a question from the agencies, and we need to well, work on the documentation instead of just answering what the documentation is already in place. Well, proactive planning is the ideal and the transformation itself. We need the regulatory updates and deadlines be tracked or be monitored. And of course, we are going to act because we know the regulatory updates are in process, for example, with draft guidances, draft regulations, new standards from the agencies. They have uh, transition time. We don't need to miss this time. I don't know, with our own problems. We need to collaborate each other between teams. For example, in this CCP, the change control processes is collaborative. Is you have to exchange information between areas in your company, right? The engineering, the manufacturing, QA, regulatory, the directors, etc. This collaborative process is better because we have the information better than before. Well, easy story data retrieval is the most typical way we transform the digital because we have the information easily and ready to be delivered, ready to be present. um, when you have a very digital environment, you used to have the answers quicker than before. But because the information is already there, you need to create the outputs, the documents for the submissions. But also for our internal teams or our directors, you create very fast the reports they ask for, and historical data is helping the rest of the processes to be evidence. Well, and of course, automatic Kappa plans are prepared with appropriate workflows, and you can present evidence for Kappa because digital transformation will allow you to save data in a proper manner and maintain records um, among other processes, but also in the life cycle of your products. That's why Kappa plans and Kappa workflows are easy to manage. Well, just to summarize, we have faster regulatory research because we need to find the regulations, we need to understand the global markets, and this is important for the digital. Fostering a collaborative culture, as we said, creating structured, connected, and meaningful data. This is important because meaningful data means you are working with the appropriate data you need, for example, for this kappa or these deficiency letters, not a lot of information you need to filter out, you need to summarize, you need to cut and process after process when you collect the information. This is a better and really a benefit from digital transformation. Improving the CAP implementation, we said, and strategy information for actions, even for directors or for other external agencies. Well, in this transformation, we need some drivers, right? But just to understand what drivers means, is drivers, there are many, right? Because you have different approaches. In this case, the generic elements, because digital means systems, means data, means connectivity, means security, etc. You need a couple of them. This is the five most important. When you have the sourcing of the information, you need to understand what are the database, the web or cloud based information you manage to source your information. This include external sourcing like regulatory agencies, RINs, other platforms, the sourcing where the information is located, right? Training is really important. I would say it's the second one in importance because training is important to support the process, entirely the process, because in the training you can provide the SOPs for the people who manage the digital data. Responsibilities are really important here because we need to know where are the responsibilities for each one individual, each one in personnel in the process. And of course, safety because we are managing critical data from our companies and we need to train people, be aware of the importance of the digital data. Processing, well, processing the information. Sometimes we need to have workflows, of course, for every process. I just mentioned, for example, CCP, the submissions, the alerts crawling, if you need to understand what are the news from the agencies. Many processes for your data. Today, you need to create workflows before any digital tool to be um, accepted in the company. Well, and of course, processing needs QA monitoring because before you are working with digital, you were working with paperwork, right? Your quality management team will process this document, will sign up the documents, will stamp the documents and store documents for you, or maybe in your area you do it. But processing in digital make a differences. It's really critical how QA monitors the digital data as we did in the past with the paperwork, right? Because for the old days, for us, we have a couple of decades of age. It was paperwork, manual work, but you were just sure that this folder contains all the information and is maintained in my office, uh, locked under three keys. because the information is critical. But in digital, you need to do a lot of QA monitoring to be sure the information is safe. Well, integration. If you are from IT or related to IT, integration with standard apps like SAP or other platform, or maybe custom from these companies or other companies, customizing your use cases for integrating with other platforms, because maybe you need a cloud, you need to hire a cloud space, you need to hire an ERP, sorry, you need to hire an regulatory intelligence management system, you need to hire many different PLM, for example, um, and then you need to integrate your digital information with the external, right? The external standards or not the standard applications or softwares or platforms. Integrations are really difficult process in the companies because they involve a lot of IT, a lot of regulatory people, a lot of QA, etc. Right? Take in consideration this. And the last but not least is the security, right? Security could be the first one, the second one, or whatever it is. Security will be one of the most important things because digital information is under regulations, you have internal policies for the how you manage the information, and if you don't have internal policies, you need to create it SOPs as well. You need to create SOPs to manage your digital information. Imagine if you are from old days and paperwork and you are transitioning to digital. Maybe you don't know how to manage digital data. You need to hire the appropriate people, the appropriate responsible for managing this, right? Well, this is the key drivers in the generic elements, but we have also our special elements for the regulatory affairs, right? We have also a couple of them here, maybe more you can find in your company. The regulatory intelligence, the regulatory affairs planning, the tracking changes, collaborative environment, AI and automation. Um, you would say regulatory intelligence is um, what you do when you are proactive monitoring the information. You are proactive capturing data from your system or from external sources, and you are making decisions according to this information, right? This regulatory intelligence should have a lot of connections with different processes. In general, we start from monitoring alerts or news from the environment. We say also post-market surveillance. We say other sources of information like marketing or competency studies, for example, market reports. You have a lot of different sources for the regulatory intelligence, but in particular, the regulation from agencies is the key. But of course, any of them today are in paper based or in paperwork. You need to do it digital and digitally transform to information, internal information to be managed for the areas. The planning, I would say, as we said, the regulatory planning needs to be adapted to the digital transformation because if we use everything in Excel sheets or even in Excel sheet printed out and that's all, it's not possible to impact the plan with different decisions within the system, the digital system. Also, the submission strategy should be digital and the standardization of data and reuse of data because many times we recreate the data when we already have it. Digitally, we can do whatever we want within the submission, within the regulations, and etc. for our plan to be on track, yeah, and under compliance of our requirements. Well, tracking changes. This is something uh, my personal experience when we are working with design and development of products, and maybe regulatory is collaborating with us. Sometimes it's difficult to track changes before we plan the change or before we implement it. It's difficult to be aware of the regulations, the impact assessment, and typical cases, we ask the regulatory people to just clean your stuff, right? Because you do the things in the wrong way, and the ideal way will be creating the insights for the product lifecycle management when you want to change your product, and the regulatory people will feedback your project, but in digital platforms, and you can trigger different changes, assessment, and changes in the future without any delay for the regulatory agencies, right? Sometimes the R&D guys change things and they don't know that regulatory people will take many processes involved, communications with the agencies. Sometimes we do something is not under regulations. Well, we need to have a good communications. The collaborative environment is, of course, cross-functional. We need to collaborate each other, collaborate between areas, as I said. Also, the interactive online visibility is helping the digital transformation because when you have all the collaborative environment in one platform and you can be transparent with the rest of the areas, you have a better result. You have a rapid or very accurate feedback from the other areas, right? This is important, collaborative environment in your company. And last, of course, but not least, but the AI and automation today is taking the most important place in the company because AI and different automation tools are really critical for the time where processes are in undergoing or are in implementation. Automation, I would say today is key, really key part of the processes because we have a lot of manual work. We need to automate the repetitive processes in the company, and of course AI, not from 2 3 years ago, but from now. If you are not implementing AI, you should implement processes including different modules and even understanding how you can adapt the model for your company and do more in less time and without a lot of costs. This is the key drivers in digital transformation for the regulatory affairs. What is the role of the intelligence here in the digital framework? Many of them are already discussed. I will go fast with the here with this slide. When we used to have desktop regulatory process, we have manual research, reactive responses, local effort from the distributors. Sometimes we struggle with distributors and other actors in the process, and we lack of feedback and improvement. Sometimes when we do something and we don't know if it was okay because our distributor already fixed it, and that's all. That's not feedback to the company, and it's not feedback to improve our processes. What happened with digital? Digital regulatory intelligence will automatic track your moves to actionable insights. You have any step in your plan will be actionable, will be monitored with different responsibles. And you can also anticipate changes because, as I said a couple of minutes ago, We can discuss changes before we implement it because we have the information in our hands. We could be proactive in those changes instead of reactive. Of course, we can uh, gather all the strategy and the decisions in different markets without any local effort to be implemented. We because our distributors will communicate with us, for example, with um, ca- distributor collaboration tools, something that you can share information, you can have first-hand information from them, and they are aware about the data you have immediately. At the same time, online, you can gather this strategy and the market's decision. And of course, because the information is already in the system, the lesson learned through digital statistics and reports is really important because we will have the feedback immediately it's captured, right? Uh, Feedback, for example, I don't know, the submission was with different issues. The information is put it into the system. Sorry, and you can have the first time the information in your hands instead of discussing with distributor or the other actors in the system, right? This is the role. Well, one of the important points of our webinar is well, we implement the practical steps to get started. This is not, I would say, this is not the the specialist or the specific example because you will do on your own. But in general, these 6 steps, used to be in the generic process of digital transformation. You will always start by the plan. It's recommended to uh, include the transformation, the digital transformation in your plan uh, because any other step will go in a different direction. For example, if you are planning to um, go digital and some area from your company is already implementing very bureaucratic processes with different other systems and maybe paperwork mixed with, I don't know, other non-digital sources, it's not possible to be in the same page, right? Digital plan, engage people. It's very important to engage people in this transformation because we will see the slide in a minute, but engaging people um, is, I would say, this the non-negotiable step. You need to have the right people, and they should be very compromised with the process, committed to the process. Sorry. Workflows, defined workflows, the tool selection, and an agile implementation of the processes. I will go through the slides and let you know what are the comments here. Starting the digital transformation from the very beginning. Well, if we don't implement the digital transformation in the very beginning of your plan, uh, it could be not in line with the general policy of your company. Maybe it's not in line with other areas, and maybe it's possible you will struggle with uh, this change in your mindset, right? Mindset is really important here because you are trying to think digital, and if the rest of the company is not thinking digital, you will be alone, right? This is something you need to start from the very beginning. You need to deal with this. You need to discuss with um, the directors board. You need to discuss with your colleagues in the company because digital is not software. Digital is a mindset, right? This is important. Engaging people because it's this a change in your mindset, it's a change in your philosophy. Engaging people is key element here because the people joining the team or joining the project should know that digital transformation is not a negotiable process. It's not, we can do mix. It's not possible to transition from paper to digital in 10 years. Uh, Today, companies are using around 2 years, 1 year, 2 years to transition everything. Depending on the size of the company, you need to go faster than ever. I need to go really proactive in this transition to digital. Training is key because not only uh, new SOPs, new processes are in place, but also a new way to think about data. Data in the old days was also um, capturing the information I understand I need to know, but in this case, this information we should know before any agency, before any other client will ask for this information. This is important to provide the right data in a proper manner, and you need to understand why you are digital. Here, sometimes we just mentioned that it's not engaging people should be younger people. Engaged people is not only young people that is digital native. We also in the 40s we can join any team for digital transformation, right? Because this is a change in your philosophy. You have in the whole process you have many different workflows. Sometimes you are already aware about the workflows because you are already, for example, certified under ISO 13485 and you already have all the SOPs and you understand your workflows. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you only know about the processes of manufacturing, and when you are involved in the regulatory intelligence digital transformation, you need to understand what are the process you need to prioritize because they have the high impact in the digitization. Um, would say the problem with digital transformation is if you don't capture the appropriate processes and workflow, sometimes you are working uh, twice, or maybe you are working bad because sorry, you are working with information that is not um, relevant in the future. That's why you need to prioritize the processes. For example, if I'm going to prioritize my submissions, I should know my PLM, for example, my documentation from technical files should be digital. That's right. All processes from submission workflows should be in touch with the generation of these documents, right? There is no um, sense in creating submissions for digital when all my documentation is on paper, right? We need to understand that. Well, sometimes when we discuss about digital transformation, people think about what are the tools I need to buy, I need to license, right? But I think the tool is the last step because if you have all these step before already clear, hiring the new, sorry, buying the tools or hiring the processes or licenses you need to use will be easier because you know the requirements, you know your needs, you know the type of data you manage, you know the process are in place, you know the responsibles, etc. All this information will be required by any company providing tools for your digital transformation. And you need to build an scalable foundation, right? Because I cannot break what is the ongoing work, or when it cannot break the current processes, cannot create additional problems to the current process. Because this is, I would say, mandatory. We need to study before any digital transformation to be implemented. We need to study what is the, the scalable foundation we need to do today for the future. Okay. Um, when we select the tools, we cannot, or maybe it's not recommendable to uh, get all at once, right? Buying everything in one time, you need to go step by step, process by processes, understanding what are the transition between processes and connecting the dots in your system. The best way, the practical way here, this is the scalable. The scalable foundation will be the critical. Well, when we have all this under control or in our hands, we need to execute in short and fast rounds of improvements because we need to be agile. Typically, the digital tools and digital process are agile or other type of methods, but in general, agile is the most common method to develop something in the digital world. And we need to execute this plan we have in short and fast rounds of improvements. Immediate verification is the ideal. We need to verify the results. We need to understand it's going well because the old methods of waterfall the development, when you have all the steps ready and you start from the A and end to the B and C and D, it's not applicable today. It's better to have faster and shorter rounds of checking, multidisciplinary teams working together, as I said, and trying to work on staging environments or staging and development environments instead of production first until we complete all the digital transformation and understand everything is going under requirements, right? This is important because in digital transformation, if we don't do this and we understand the problems maybe 1 year later, is 1 year lost because it's not possible to make everything ready in a waterfall way to do things. Okay. Practically, we need to execute in an agile method and work together with the rest of the areas to implement the digitalization. Wow. Uh, we are about to end the presentation, but what are in the future? What we have in the future? What is looking ahead? Maybe possible for digital transformation. How digital transformation supports our long-term compliance and growth, or what are the successful regulatory team doing today? Maybe we need to know what is the future, what is it looking ahead, what we need to do. Okay, for we have a couple of examples here. One of them is the evolution of science and the evolution of the generation of the evidence. Um, this is something maybe regulatory people just manage because they need to have the information from clinical data, from users, from everything from the clinical field. But today, every agency working with the clinical information is speaking about real world data or real world evidence. Because in the past, we used to have clinical studies, right? Clinical studies are planned, are executed and controlled under controlled environment, but in general, the clinical study don't represent the real world. Real world is the day after you sell the first unit to the market, right? The real world data was not uh, supplied to the companies. Maybe many companies were collecting this information actively, but today we don't have real world data for many products we use in our clinical field. Um, Other is the clinical data records. In the past, all the clinical data for clinical studies or clinical investigation were paper-based. Um, you have to send monitors to the centers to check the data, to collect the paperwork, and maybe transform this paper to digital in very large collectors of data. But it was not possible to share this information and to use it in the future. Um, just recently, you can access databases, you can access many clinical studies online, you can search for information, and you can perform investigation, research with data. In the past was really difficult. You need to read a lot of documents, you need to find very expensive databases to understand the clinical data for your product or for the competence product. Today, we also have the AI-driven analytics and modeling because we need these tools for improve our risk assessment, right? When you start doing your risk management, you start by the risk assessment, right? When you start by the risk assessment with a new product, you have the risk assessment empty because you don't know about the product because the product is an idea, it's a prototype, it's a drawing, it's a compendium of ideas. But today we have analytics and modeling through the AI. We can prepare models, we can prepare um, modelized products or dummy products to be tested with AI, to be tested with information. We could have finite elements modules, for example, to know what is the behavior of our products in the application. And this is really important because science is helping the evidence generation instead of doing um, samples testing, animal testing, human testing, right? This is important because it's an important use of the AI and the AI and all the models. And of course, the post-market data it was similar to the clinical data. I remember we used to have this very large templates we sent to our physicians working with the products. Um, I remember I used to work with implantables, and I sent these documents in 2000. I sent the documents to the doctors. They don't fill the documents because they don't have time. They use other people in the team working with post-market data, and sometimes they just answer, okay, 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 everything is okay, and real post-market data was not possible to be gathered, right? Today, we have this post-market data easily gathered for decision making. We have this post-market data. You can push your post-market data through the product, for example. For digital products is easier because you can embed the software for data collecting in the products and you will see all the data online. But for implantables, sterile and everything, you can have a process in place to collect and to gather this post-market data for our company. Okay. And another one is the artificial intelligence. Okay. We are today really bombarded by artificial intelligence in many ways. We don't even know what artificial intelligence means sometimes because it's a very broad topic. But for this topic, for the digital transformation, is really important for our field, for the regulatory intelligence field, because we can have many uses for artificial intelligence in not only for manufacturers but for the agencies. As many of you know that the US FDA is implementing AI for many years, and other agencies are doing the same. They are trying to do even the review of submissions and everything through AI. I have summarized a couple of issues, a couple of topics we have here. The AI and the machine learning can enhance the regulatory science. I believe in the future, agencies will learn from the past experience and create the regulations with AI, understanding the feedback from the market and the good experience, doing the regulatory rules uh, easier to understand by people, but also um, strong enough for different type of products and classifications and risks. Um, Also, the evolution of regulatory frameworks for AI system is really critical because AI system will be the most common systems in the future, but the regulatory frameworks are not ready yet. This evolution should be really mm, faster, and regulatory frameworks should change the mindset for AI, right? We used to have experts on the other side of the desk. The experts will ask for information, you send information, and they respond with their experience. Today, the information is created with AI and will be maybe reviewed by people. And sometimes it will be a problem if AI is not prepared to answer the regulatory frameworks, or vice versa. If in the agency we already implemented the AI and it's not ready for people in the other side, will be a problem. Well, in professionals, regulatory affairs professionals, I used to hear that the regulatory affairs professionals are in trouble because they will lose their jobs, but it's not the possible ahead um, situation, because the operational impact will be you will have the time to do meaningful things for your processes instead of doing everyday manual work of reviewing, collecting data, preparing reports, printing out things, sing up documents, stamping things, and sharing emails, right? Everything can be managed by AI. The operational impact will be huge, and the regulatory affairs people will focus on their experience. The human in the loop will be something critical in the future, and the regulatory affairs professionals should be aware and trained in the AI intelligence, the artificial intelligence tools, because you will see it a lot in the few years. Well, intelligent, continuous, and predictive regulation, of course, the first point, the enhancing regulatory science. We also collaborate with regulation that is predictive, continuous, and intelligent. We say uh, today the regulation is a law, a guidance, and a standard is static paper, static rules, and the changes are not possible because in the backend you need to do in the background you need to do a lot of processes, regulatory processes, agencies have their own bureaucracy, and sometimes they don't evolve faster than expected, right? In the future, the regulation should be predictive, understanding the market, continuously changing, and intelligent enough to understand the situation of products, companies, consumers, and patients. And the regulatory oversight, what is the implication? Um, Sometimes they said the oversight will be minimum because the AI will be in charge of everything, and regulatory people should not do anything else because the oversight is just took by the AI. Not This is not the situation. The oversight will be amplified because we will cover more information and more topics to check or to monitor with less time of our dedication, with more tools and more oversight of the processes. This is really important because we can do stronger processes, uh, managing issues really fast, and we are not having all in charge of the AI. We have amplified oversight of our regulatory process. Okay, and what are the regulatory teams doing today? If they are successful, they, first of all, they early adopt the technologies. Uh, in general, you will see people in these teams like eager of technologies, new information, new methods, and they are like crazy guys because they want to know everything from technology to make their own day easier, right? They want to do less, sorry, they want to do more with less. This is with early adoption of technology. You will see these guys working with the latest AI possible. You will see these guys struggling with new methods to check information, to move to new systems, and they are every time reading information from the technologies and new methods. Um, the other thing is they are multidisciplinary teams, you know, RA people and IT people, or mix of both, because more IT are moving to RA and more RA are moving to IT. And in general, these uh, specialists are not longer specialists, but they are specialists in digital, right? The third one is the digital culture, right? I said non-negotiable. Digital culture is a way to live. It's a way to understand the environment. You are digital and you are not digital, you are out, right? Digital and non-digital will be critical in these companies. The successful companies are just accepting digital culture, not only methods and not all days methods. And they usually innovate with processes. They are um, looking for every innovation in their processes that can save time, money, improve things, and spend less time doing nonsense things. And their process innovation is uh, massive. They are trying to innovate every day in their own process. If you have one of these, one, two, three, four, no matter the order, you already are in process of digital transformation. But if you want to do it, the whole package is the recommended um, things you need to do. Well, early adoption, multidisciplinary, digital culture, and innovation. This is the summary of what are the regulatory teams doing differently today. Okay, we have ended the presentation, I think.
Well, very good. Thank you, Pablo. We appreciate that. And I know we're running a little bit over time. So, in effort to keep you not on here too much longer, everyone, I'm just going to ask a couple questions here and then we'll include the other ones in the email. So, be on the lookout for that. And again, we will send the replay and slide deck. So, that will come as well. So, the first question is, what are practical steps to take when starting digital transformation? Could one of y'all provide just a quick summary of that?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Pablo actually listed it quite well. The first critical thing is to understand your current non-digital processes. You need to understand what work are your teams doing today manually. Where are you going to have that biggest bang for your buck in terms of converting to a digital process? I also caution you to look at everything holistically when you start going down this path of wanting to digitally transform your regulatory team, so that you have a true understanding of all your needs. Because kind of just picking one area, finding a solution, and then trying to pick another area and find a solution, you may find at the end of the day that you haven't selected the right kind of tools, that you didn't pick an end-to-end solution as an example, and it gives you limitations as you move forward.
Perfect. And then maybe just a summary on this one. Why are traditional regulatory processes no longer sufficient for modern medical product development? And you guys had, I think, talked about this a little bit, or you had Pablo, but just maybe a quick summary of that as well.
Yeah, I think things are just moving too fast. There are the workload that's on regulatory professionals today is growing exponentially, and most companies are looking to do more with less. So even just in terms of how many markets you're putting your products into, that alone increases your workload. So those manual processes, I remember back when I was doing submissions years ago, where it's submission day and you're printing out binders of paper, and I had to actually use a paginator that went in and stamped every single page. That would not be effective today when you're going to many, many markets at once. So that's really, the prime reason why digital transformation of key processes in the regulatory space is absolutely needed. I don't think any company is going to survive or flourish on the regulatory side without going down this path.
Perfect. We do have a few more questions, but we will include those in the slide deck and presentation when I send out that stuff. So just be on the lookout for that email in the next couple of days, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up since we are a little bit over, but hopefully we had a few people that were able to stay and listen to the rest of that. Thank you again, Pablo, for all that information. I know you had some great slides in there as well that will really provide value for everybody. And thank you for joining us as well, Jodi.
Yep. Thank you.
thank
Bye,
you,
everybody.
thank
Have a
you,
great
everyone.
day.